So I chose to complete my Ignite presentation on the power of student self-assessment and reflection. I think that this is one of the more overlooked versions of formative assessment, and I feel like it has the most benefits both for students and for teachers. Stanford University describes self-assessment as involving students in evaluating their own work and tracking their learning. So again, with those learning targets that ChapUS always talks about, they're tracking their progress with that. Some other benefits are listed below there. In the ChapUS text, she states that students don't really know how to self-assess, so first you have to teach them how to do it, but it's so worth it in the end, and again, the research shows that it's worth it and it increases their achievement. Even more reasons why self-assessment is important. When you get peers involved, it can even cause students to achieve even more. I feel that students try to please each other when they're working in groups, so that is a great benefit there. And again, just it increases their motivation and their self-efficacy. Metacognition, going along with that, it's the ability to examine how you process thoughts and feelings. It's really thinking about your thinking, and it kind of goes along with self-assessment. I'm going to talk about that shortly. And metacognition is so important in education because it encourages students to understand how they learn best. It helps them develop self-awareness skills that become important as they get older. Metacognition, again, really goes hand in hand with that self-assessment, and I don't feel like they're two separate things. In fact, I kind of see them as more of a loop. Students self-assess, that it increases their metacognitive awareness, and then that leads them to be more self-directed learners where they self-assess on their own, and it just never ends. And it's a great endless loop. There are also problems, though, with self-assessment. Sometimes the data can be skewed. If students don't feel safe, they might alter their results and not be realistic. They also might try to please their teachers and change their results. There could also be some cultural problems for why they would change it. In my instruction, I meet with students on a regular basis and just ask them some basic informal self-assessment questions. I also have self-assessment questions at the end of each marking period and my daily surveys that I have after each lesson. More about my daily surveys. It is a Google form that my students fill out at the end of each class. They have to include their name, their school email, which class of mine they're in, since I do teach 4 classes, and they rate their understanding of the lesson on a scale of 1 to 4. Going along with the rating, they also have to explain why they chose that, because I don't just want them to say 1 or 4, I want a little explanation there. I'll then export their results into an Excel sheet, and then I'll look at that each night. That helps me better plan my instruction, but it also helps them better to, again, be more self-directed learners. So I've observed that my lowest achieving students, their grades actually increased. The more I use these daily surveys, their metacognition increased as well. And I also saw just after 1 month of school that students would complete the self-assessment on their own without my prompting. It was great. Some research that supports my observations. Jan ChapUS again says that when students are required to think about their own learning and articulate what they understand and what they still need to learn, achieve and improve. So that goes along with what I just said about my lowest achieving students, their grades increasing the most. So that really benefited them. Willingham, he is a cognitive science psychologist, and he explains that what ends up in a learner's memory is a product of what the learner thought about when he or she encountered the material. So the fact that they're thinking about their thinking, that just makes them remember the content more. I use my daily surveys again. They help me see which students have mastered the content quicker than others. I also, like I said, use this when planning my new instruction and when trying to place students into groups. I place them heterogeneously so that they can help each other out. My goals for next year, I want my students to kind of track their own progress of the learning targets, not just me tracking them. And ChapUS says that self-assessment forges a commitment to continue learning, and goal-setting maps. So again, just the goal setting, I want them to map that out. I also want to allow my students to go back and improve their assignments after self-assessing. So again, not grading too early. And I do want to have some little self-assessment in their interactive notebooks. My favorite self-assessment strategy that ChapUS describes is the traffic cone, where before, during, or honestly even after a unit, students will fill this out. I'm going to start using this next year, and I'm really excited to see how it works. Also, adding reflection into self-assessment. Chapua says that this can really be used with secondary students, and again, it tracks their level of confidence, self-efficacy, and everything like that. These are just a few questions that I plan on including on my unit assessments next year. One final thought, meaningful student self-assessment and goal setting requires beginning with learning targets. Beyond that, students need practice with comparing their current status to the targets, justifying their judgments with evidence from their work, and setting specific goals that guide subsequent actions. This just really sums it all up. I think it's a great quote from Chapua, and there are my resources. Thanks for watching.